a Noble Media Group member.
The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
6,000 years ago, man invented the wheel. 5,000 years later, he invented the printing press. 460 years later, he would fly. 70 years later, he would step on the moon. And 8 years later, he would send a spacecraft beyond our solar system. Today, we have computers which can think for themselves and robots that can dance. Properly utilized, today's technologies can bring an end to poverty, hunger, and even the need to work, or to make bombs that will end all life on Earth. Will we destroy ourselves or come together?
It is now 85 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
Join Joe Carvin as he explores these questions, because mankind is on the hinge of history. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hinge of History. This is Brian Mistro. Of course, I'm here with Joe Carvin. Welcome back, Joe. You went on a little trip. We missed you. For everybody that's watching, I don't know if you're watching on X or YouTube or where you're watching from, but this is going to be a fun episode today, Joe. It's we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some stuff and watch a couple of very interesting videos, but it's going to be fun. For those that are watching, if you're very new to AI and you don't understand a lot of the specifics of it, some of the terms of it, and so forth, go back to some of our previous videos. Those are all recorded. They're all on YouTube, and Joe did an amazing job of really breaking it down into a lot of simplistic terms. So welcome again, everybody, back to the Hinge of History. Joe, good to have you back, my friend.
Brian, thank you so much. I'm really excited about today's show. In fact, the goal today is to begin to help our viewers build a focused 21st century Renaissance mindset that sees both the potential and the pitfalls of emerging AI. People need to understand that the next 15 years will be far and away the most consequential in human history, no doubt about it. You need to throw out everything you've known about the world and learned over the past 71 years. Tomorrow will look nothing like today. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but I wanted you to show that first video. The first time I heard Elon Musk talk about, and look, we know he's controversial, but he certainly understands technology. And the first time I heard him talk about a world of abundance was November 2023. And what's clear to me is he understands, I understand, the futurists understand how dramatically forward the potential for AI has advanced in the last 3 years. So let's take a look at this video, and then we'll talk about some scenario analysis we're just completing.
Sounds like a plan. I'll tee it up right now.
I
think AI may exceed the sum of human intelligence in around 5 years.
In 5 years?
Roughly 5 years is my guess. So there really won't be anything that AI can't do better than humans, apart from being human, perhaps.
At a more prosaic level, what will life be like?
The most likely outcome is an age of amazing abundance, where anyone can have anything they can think of. This may sound preposterous, but well, here we are in 2026. Let's see where we stand in 2036. Now, of course, there are things that could derail this, like a massive global thermonuclear war or something like that. But assuming that there's not World War III, I think we're headed for an age of amazing abundance. So this is, I guess, a message of optimism and excitement about the future.
You're sure that humans will no longer be in control in 10 years' time?
I think it is unlikely, in the same way that if you had a vastly more, if the difference in the intelligence between AI and humans is vastly greater than the difference in intelligence between AI and chimpanzees, it's hard to imagine that the chimpanzees would be in charge.
10 years. 10 years. Unlikely that humans will be in control in 10 years. I mean, every once in a while, I don't know why. And I've done this show with you for a while now, but sometimes it just blows me away, some of the stuff that they're talking about. And let's not forget that as far as I can remember, he doesn't miss too many of his guesses either. So, how did that
Well,
strike you, Joe?
his timing can be off, but in terms of actual realization, he seems to always get there. So his timing may be optimistic, and I think there's a couple of interesting things to note. In the beginning, he said we'll basically have artificial super intelligence.
Hmm.
Now, he's more aggressive on that. I'm thinking artificial general intelligence.
Right.
That's when the AI is as smart as the average human being and autonomous,
Right.
where it can
Right.
begin to self-replicate. But he's thinking that it'll begin self-replicating quite quickly, and that AI will have more intelligence than the whole of humanity, the whole of collective intelligence, you, me, Brian, and the other 8 billion people on the planet. So that's what he's predicting. And that leads to this world of superabundance he's envisioning in 2036. Now, the reason I'm excited about today's show, right, is because no one knows what the world's going to look like in 2040. That's something you've heard me say frequently. However, as a former Wall Street analyst, the contours of this world are beginning to come together. And there are certain phenomena taking place that we can see and predict out over the next 5 and 10 years. So we've been talking about this a little bit. We have the $7.6 trillion investment in AI infrastructure between now and 2031. We have emerging synergies between AI and quantum computing, reducing quantum's error rate, increasing the probability it will become a very real force multiplier over the next 10 years. In addition to that, I just said our best guess for AGI is artificial general intelligence, where it becomes autonomous and begins to become self-replicating for the good. That happens in 2029 to 2031. And finally, again, one of the biggest events in human history. Yet my wife says I'm given to hyperbole, Brian, but one of the biggest events in human history was on June 12th, when the world gave Elon $85.7 billion and said, take us to space. So for the first time in human history, we had the chance to become a multiplanetary species. When you add those four phenomena, so I went to our AI and I said, okay, what's the world going to look like? So that's the scenario analysis we've done. If you want, I can go through what the different ones I came up with.
Go ahead. I'd love to hear it.
All right. So XAI is predicting a radically transformed world where super intelligent AI and quantum synergies drives unprecedented progress in understanding and shaping reality. The 7.6 trillion capex, the quantum multiplier, significantly raises the probability of transformative timelines in the 2030s, while amplifying both the upsides and the challenges. The world by 2035 could look more like science fiction than today's reality. I think that you just heard it from Elon, right? Yep. He said, try and imagine a world where anything you want. Anything you want. Now, look, that's one thing to say that in the United States, where the per capita income is $85,000. I just got back from Brazil, and you see, far more poverty in Brazil. I got back from Kenya, $2,000 GDP per capita. But this can all happen. Now, how is it going to happen with all these things that we're talking about? I went to my Chinese AI, DeepSeek. It says basically the 7.6 trillion is the launch pad for AGI. But quantum is the fuel that ASI adds to the rocket mid-flight. At the end of the day, 15-year commercialization curve with AGI quantum is compressed into 2032 to 2034. So they see big changes. That means by 2035, we're not just living in a post-human intelligence infrastructure. We're living in a post-classical physics infrastructure where the fundamental limits of silicon, copper, and electricity have been transcended. Now, all that analysis you've heard so far was without SpaceX. So now I asked DeepSeek to continue and say, all right, what happens if SpaceX hits the mark? And so they said, again, the launch pad, the 7.6 trillion is the launch pad. Musk space bet adds a new layer. It's a parallel landscape, one that may ultimately replace the terrestrial one. The 2631 period is not just about building data centers on Earth, it's about which architecture wins, terrestrial or orbital. If orbital compute achieves cost parity by 2028, 2029, what Musk expects, then by 2031, the terrestrial build may look like a bridge too far. Infrastructure built for a world that no longer exists. By 2035, we're not just living in a post-human intelligence infrastructure or a post-classical physics infrastructure. We're living in a post-terrestrial compute infrastructure. Well, the most important data centers are not in Virginia, Singapore, or Ireland, but in low Earth orbit, powered by the sun, cooled by the void, and linked by lasers. Okay, so the transition from 2031 to 2035, not just the most compressed 5-year period in human history. It's the period when humanity decides whether the future lies on Earth or among the stars, whereas Musk is betting in both. How do you like them apples?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I think it's both. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh, yeah.
I think we talked about this last time too, Joe. The Chinese had also recently sent up quote computers into low orbit. So some of this stuff is technically already happening, right? I mean,
Oh,
it's
100%.
even as we're discussing it right now. Um,
Yes.
and also for those that have been paying attention, and this is not my forte, but I love reading about it. SpaceX just launched the new Starship, and she did very, very well for the first time. Well, I don't want to say for the first time, but I think she met or exceeded what they wanted it to do, and came back and re-landed in the ocean. I call it a landing. It's of course it hits the ocean and sinks, but that was a very successful flight. So that move to the stars that Elon foresees is literally happening right now in real time. As you said, it's a Renaissance moment, and the question is, I wonder how many people during the Renaissance era knew that they were in a Renaissance moment, and then how many people in today's Renaissance era really understand we're in another Renaissance moment. So, kind of some deep
I'm going to tell you,
philosophical discussions.
well, so Brian, so I wrote my book online book in April 2025. And we were pretty accurate in our predictions, but everything that I predicted has been far surpassed.
Hmm.
It's happening faster and faster and faster. Even Elon and all of the futures, and we'll talk about this in a second. They talk about exponential wow, if you remember that, right? He goes to
Right.
sleep and something happens, he can't believe. Wakes up and something happens, they can't believe. We're going to talk at the end of the show today about Demis Hassabis' new essay, because we're starting to move into regulation. We're starting to finally think it's catching on. I think it's always interesting to me how there's a war in Iran, everybody becomes an expert on Iran, and how fast that information filters down.
Yeah.
And so I think people are starting to begin for the first time to understand both the potential and pitfalls. There's a whole lot of craziness out there. But I did want to go through one more scenario before we finish. The
Okay.
Chat GPT, and this is Chat GPT. And again, by the way, who are these people? I'm going to talk a little bit more next time. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to the whole of human knowledge synthesized by these frontier labs, right?
Right.
Coming back with me, and you can exchange ideas, go back and forth, challenge them. I mean, you're really talking to the most intelligent entity in the history of humanity. Go back and forth. I mean, how this is a great world for anybody with a bit of curiosity and a little bit of chutzpah. All right, so this is what ChatGPT, my ChatGPT advisor, is telling us. He's saying, Joe, he calls me Joe. This is probably the single. This is, and by the way, the one thing you got to be careful with the different frontier labs is they can be very complimentary. They can flatter. They can flatter. So no one's better flattery than ChatGPT. They're always telling me how great I am. But anyway, they said this is probably the single hardest forecasting question in technology. No one knows the answers with confidence, and thoughtful experts disagree. So again, this is my best guess, Joe Carvin's best guess, based on my AI research of what's going to happen. I think it's more right than wrong. But again, as they say, no one knows. Now, what they see for 2031, the intelligent civilization. This is an intelligence explosion. The generation, the accelerated generation of AI is leading to the intelligent. So every major organization operates with AI agents. Many companies have more AI agents than human employees.
Yep.
Most knowledge work is AI assisted. AI is becoming an operating layer for the economy rather than just an application, right? So AI. Now, just imagine, right? I don't tell you. Again, I always ask this question: who's smarter, you or your AI? Well, I know my AI is a lot smarter than me. I don't know the third president of Brazil. Do you? My AI will figure it out in 2 seconds. So, in the traditional sense of the word knowledge, the AI is far more intelligent than us. So now imagine it's operating, right? I love the answers I get. I may disagree, but they're always coherent, well thought, well reasoned answers, right? How many people do you know? You're on your show, on the other show. How many times do people give you other than your show, obviously, Brian? People give you the well thought, well reasoned answers to any question.
Well, you're going to get me in trouble answering that one, right?
I'll try to avoid that. All right.
And by the way, let's not
ahead.
forget, Joe. Let's not forget, just for our audience, to save some marriages. If AI asks you who's smarter, AI or your wife is smarter. Okay, we'll just leave it right there. It's trying to save some lives
yesterday
here.
was
So
my wedding anniversary, and my wife reminded me of that. I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have an extremely wise and intelligent wife who keeps me very grounded. As some people might afraid I might levitate. So my wife keeps me very. So the next topic is robotics, right? So millions of robots work in manufacturing, logistics, hospitals, agriculture, construction, retail. Humanoid robots remain expensive, but are becoming increasingly common in industries. Education. Every learner has access to high-quality AI tutoring. Traditional age-based instruction begins giving way to more personalized, competency-based learning in many systems. Healthcare. Doctors increasingly work with AI diagnostics and planning systems. Drug discovery is substantially faster than today, though healthcare systems will face. Okay, then we have, all right, so now, economy. Global productivity growth accelerates. Many occupations are redefined, some disappear. Many new roles emerge around AI orchestration, governance, robotics, education, and human-centered. Now, the world in 2035. This is where, according to my friend ChatGPT says, this is where I think the picture changes dramatically. Instead of describing it as an AI economy, I describe it as an AI civilization. Civilization. It's a fundamental change in our civilization. Human civilization is going to be fundamentally transformed. And so ultimately, that's what happens in 2035. And ultimately, that's going to lead to the world of abundance that Elon talks about. But it's a civilization change. In my education program, we're trying to create architects of civilization agency and abundance. And that's where the agency comes in, Brian. It's down to you and me. And the 8.2 trillion or 3 trillion co-creators of the universe to make this happen. And the conversation, the second part of my call today, and the video we're going to look at in a second now, begins to talk about how people are getting more and more involved. It's finally seeping down. The regulations starting to begin to be talked about. The UN just held a conference we'll talk about on Wednesday. And ultimately, the AI guys and girls and futurists are beginning to talk about regulations. So let's go to that second video if we could.
Let's do it.
Demis Hassabis came out with a proposal for a private-public regulator. Do you think you guys should be working more actively to get something in place to control the risks, or do you think that's impossible too?
My recommendation to Demis was that the most immediate thing that we could do is to have the leading AI companies at least just meet or have some sort of call once every few weeks and just discuss any safety and security issues.
But why haven't you done that yet? I mean, you don't all like
We'll know
each
each
other very
other.
much.
Yeah.
But you're also all competing, right? You all want to be first.
Yes, but that's where I think the competitors can keep each other honest. So meaning like if I think it's quite difficult for someone in the government who doesn't have a deep technical understanding and isn't driving the frontier of AI to know whether something should be released or not. However, the competitors, I think, can, if given sort of a week or two to review a new model, can highlight issues and have an incentive to keep all the competitors have an incentive to keep the others honest.
You guys are insulting each other on social media constantly. So do you think you can do that with people that you dislike, that where there seems to be such kind of personal vitriol between some of these leaders?
Yes, well, I'm not a fan of Sam Altman because if you started a nonprofit that was meant to be an open source AI company and owned by the world, and it somehow got turned into an $800 billion for-profit company with closed source, I think you'd be like, well, wait a second, that's the exact opposite of what I donated the money for. That's my issue. I think it's a legitimate one. And then Dario, I think, also is not a fan of Sam Altman because he felt, in fact, the reason the Anthropic team left OpenAI is because they didn't trust Sam Altman. Otherwise, Anthropic wouldn't exist. They would still be at OpenAI. I think Dario is a very principled person. He cares about things a lot. Cares about the future of the world, and I think everyone I've met at Anthropic so far has been. I'm like no one set off my evil detector. They always seem like they're well intentioned. And the road to hell is, I think, mostly paved with bad intentions. There are a few well-intentioned paving stones in there, so we don't want to be complacent. But at the end of the day, if we have to talk, we'll talk. I mean, set aside our personal differences for the good of the.
Demis has.
So that's interesting, Joe. I'll tell you one of the aspects is that it doesn't sound like Sam Altman's a real popular person right now inside the AI world. But he brings up a good point, and I'm going to throw this back at you. Wouldn't it be beneficial? Wouldn't it be helpful to everyone if all the leading top AI experts got together once a month, once every 2 months? I mean,
that's what he's calling for in the video, though, correct?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
No, I think this is very encouraging. When we'll put on our website, in fact, that same woman that interviewed Elon Musk here interviewed Demis Hassabis and Dario Amodei twice. Once at the end of the Paris conference, AI conference, and once after Davos this year. And ultimately, they were both calling for AI regulation. And so if you remember, you started off by saying, my goodness, he's telling us that we lose control by 2036.
Yeah.
And again, just to put that clear for our audience, we're far more intelligent than chimpanzees. It's highly unlikely that chimpanzees are going to run the world. Well, you just heard that Elon's of the view that by 2031, AI is going to be far more intelligent than the whole of humanity.
Yeah.
So how can we, he says it would be very, extreme hubris on my part to think I'm going to run them rather than them run me. And so ultimately, no one knows whether we have 3, 5, or 10 years to align AI with human values. And so I think the encouraging thing here is Elon's talking about these monthly meetings. I watched Demis and Dario. I said, why don't you guys make something happen? Why are you waiting for poor Donald Trump or Xi? You guys make it happen. Why not you get together?
Yeah.
And I think that's beginning to happen. I think they're taking responsibility. And in fact, what we're going to talk a lot about next time is Demis Hassabis And this is the great part of this show. Take the glasses off for this one. No, but you're going to get the colossal, fundamentally changing essays. So Dario Amadei's done his essays. Demis Hassabis has, Sam Altman has his blog. This is the first time Demis Hassabis has taken the time to put pen to paper. And again, we agreed that I'm given to hyperbole. However, if you remember, I said Anthropic's call for a pause was the most consequential communication in human history.
That's right.
And I think we just had the second most consequential communication with Demis Hassabis's essay calling for regulation. So he's really put pen to paper. He's making specific recommendations. We'll go into detail next week and talk about. But he said the same thing. The same thing they keep saying. No one knows where we're headed. So this, look, again, this is the really fun thing to watch all this, Brian. These guys are learning you the same way you and I are.
Yeah.
They're like, my goodness, Dario, did you see that? What just happened? Right. So they're learning the same way. No one really knows what the heck is behind these black curtains. I don't know if it's the Wizard of Oz or who it is. So ultimately, they realize there's a genuine need for control. I'm hopeful. I think they're already talking behind the scenes, right? And I think Dario and Demis get along very well. You heard Elon, he was very complimentary of the people from Anthropic, right?
Yeah.
And eventually, and I think he's even open to bringing Sam Altman into the conversation, right? So at the end of the day, but it's a very much needed conversation. And I guess the other thing, for your politics show, what's really interesting, there's a lot of talk about prohibiting the new Chinese, AI coming into the U.S., the Kimmy.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And ultimately, Elon's against that. And Elon pointed out, you can prevent U.S. corporations from accessing it, but you can't prevent the world.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I guess the one point I'd make as the founder of One World Future Ready, we need that global cooperation, that global governance. We need to bring humanity together. Imagine just for 2 seconds, if China and the United States unite, President Xi and President Trump unite to say, we're going to take this. We're going to bring an end to poverty, hunger, disease, and needed. We're not going to compete. We're going to cooperate. And we're going to bring this to, wow, Brian, come on, baby. And I'm hoping you and I win the Nobel Peace Prize by making this happen.
Well, I'll vote for us, at least. Yeah, and it's also, I'm going to go back because you did bring up politics, and this is not a political show. But Elon also said something interesting in that video. He said, one of the problems with, regulation is inside the government, they don't have the people with the knowledge base to be able to say this should be regulated or this should not. And he used that as another reason for AI companies to get together and talk, and because they do understand it, right? And so, and that's not a political statement at all, but it's the truth.
No, look,
right?
I think I'm Republican, but a big believer in good government.
Yeah.
And I think anything the private sector can do, it should do, but it needs to be regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need is really good governance, really, really, really good regulation. And that can be the differentiator between huge success and failure. And I think that's what we really need to focus on with AI. So we need intelligent regulation. And it means there's some kind of, coordinated body with the futurists and make it knowledgeable. I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's exactly what Elon was saying too. And, what does it tell you, I think, for everybody that's watching this show right now, what does it tell you when the founders and the funders, by the way, for AI and that technology are saying we need to be regulated? Whoa. So listen, if they're telling you, you better listen. So, yeah.
In fact, I'll try and dig up. We'll do a little brief snippet from the interview that woman did from The Economist. I think we've done it in the past. We'll talk a little bit more about Dario Amadei and Demis Hassabis Oppenheimer moment.
Yeah.
If you remember that, we talked about that in the past.
Did.
But look, these guys are scared. Look, at the end of the day, as the guy from EasyJet said, once you're past $10 million, everything else is bragging rights. So, they're not doing it for the money. They're maybe power. You can argue for the power. And that's the big challenge for humanity. How do we channel the power? How do we regulate the power?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be a really great discussion, especially for this next time. Everyone, we're out of time. I don't know where you're watching this from, if you're watching it on YouTube or X or Facebook or wherever you're watching it, please take a moment, subscribe to our channel. If you go to YouTube, as a matter of fact, you won't just have this video, but you'll have all the previous Hinge of Histories. You'll have access to the political arena. You'll have access to Restoring the American Dream, to Thursday Thoughts, and we will be teeing up some new shows coming. We're very excited to say we've got some new people joining the network, and so it's just an exciting time. And plus, of course, you will have the Hinge of History that we've done for quite a few months and deep diving into some of these subjects, including the Oppenheimer moment, which Joe just mentioned. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We genuinely appreciate it, and we will see you again Wednesday.
Thanks, Brian.
You've been watching Joe Carvin's Hinge of History. The No Bull Media Group is available on all major social media platforms. Make sure to give us a follow where you can watch this show and many others.
A No Bull Media Group member.